Hello and welcome to Whole Earth Healing Radio, bringing you a more holistic perspective on the Earth and the cosmos, with interviews and discussions with some of today's most inspiring minds. I'm your host, Claudia C.J. Miller, and today we have with us an amazing speaker and spiritual teacher. His name is Franco DeNicola, and he'll be speaking with us today about 12-12-12 and beyond. But first, some information and background about Franco's life. Franco is a unified soul that has completed his soul enlightenment through the human experience. And he has traveled dimensionally, allowing him to have a broader perspective of awareness. And he agreed to reincarnate on the earth at this time to help humanity experience this advanced consciousness shift. So Franco basically came back to the earth in the late 50s, and this allowed him time to assimilate to modern human conditioning for the sole purpose of better assisting humanity through the collective shift in consciousness. So I had heard of Franco DeNicola through Collective Evolution about a year ago, but hadn't really tuned into his message until the Symphony of Meditation event, which happened around the 11th, 12th, and 13th of November this year. And that was when it really hit me, your message. And Franco shared some very powerful talks and meditations that were so deeply healing and energizing. And even for myself as a virtual attendee of this event, I experienced such a profound shift of consciousness and feel really supported by his energy. So I'm so happy to bring Franco DeNicola to the show today. Franco, welcome to Whole Earth Healing Radio.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here and giving me the opportunity to have the opportunity really to be with you and to share and so forth. So I thank you for making it all available.
Oh, great. Well, it's really an honor to have you here. So this is such an important time. Today is 12-11-12, and tomorrow obviously is the big day, 12-12-12. And, as I understand it, it's sort of like a portal that's opening now, or I thought maybe you could help people understand what the significance of this day is, and then 12-21-12. So this period of time, how would you characterize what's going on for us?
Well, the 12-12-12, I mean, this is something that's carried quite a significance in the sense that we, in our experiential world, we've been playing out, let's call it this way, in an operating frequency of a negative of energy. And so since we've been preparing ourselves, going through this opportunity for us to make a shift, and the shift has several areas involved with it. It is a shift in consciousness that really is taking place. But what's happening with the shift in consciousness is really shifting the vibrational frequency of the planet. Everything that we've known as a way of life changes. The whole completely, not only a different perspective, but a different way of viewing the whole thing taking form. But for anything of that nature to take form, there needs to be a transformation within ourselves, because we project our world as a collective. And for us to change anything outside of us, to change even our human experience, what the shift has to occur is a shift in our own consciousness, the way that we see things. And so that's kind of what's happening. But what the 12-12-12 is about is that we are actually going from a negative based frequency. We're actually on the 12th, which is tomorrow. In this particular case, it happens that we get into a neutral state where we're actually not positive, we're not negative, and it opens a portal. And the openings of the portal are actually all portals of light, and which carries consciousness. Of course, it carries oneness. It carries a much broader, expanded consciousness that's coming from source, but it's also being filtered through the different realms that it's going through that matches the changes that we're going to be doing ourselves or stepping into it. So the significance in all of this is really going from one polarity and not stepping into another polarity. It's actually going into right in an open platform. So in this particular state, when we're in a state of neutrality, it's like this. I give the analogy that if you're walking through a stream, if you're walking across a stream and you have water that you're moving through, what we've been doing is that we've been walking against the stream. And the reason we've been walking against the stream is that we've been pulled to go a certain direction, but the stream has been flowing the other way, which is kind of a negative direction, meaning it's trying to push us back down the stream instead of moving forward, and we want to move forward. And so it's been a challenge for most people whenever they come onto the planet as the soul itself that incarnates, is that when they're in this state, when they're here, that they find a lot of opposition, because the current has always been pushing in a negative state, pushing things to be outside of its natural state, but it's also been pushing against a higher consciousness and even awareness. And so even though we come here with the highest intention and we're here having this particular experience, we find that the moment we start stepping outside the box, the moment we start to come to a higher level of realization, automatically we even sense even higher opposition. And even a soul coming in its infancy at the beginning, like a child, for example, the child comes in, and what occurs right off the bat, they get conditioned, they get programmed and so forth. They're not even allowed to stay within their natural state because everything around them is trying to mold them back and put them in the same box as everybody else is in. And that's kind of the negative current that's been going. But then in that field, it also supports the negativity. It supported also that energy, that frequency, supported separation, supported what we call darkness. And what darkness means, really, when we understand what darkness is, or light carries a high level of consciousness, awareness, knowledge, knowing, and source essence. Darkness is just a lot less of that, and becoming more in the sense where we don't have the reference of that knowing, that consciousness, that sourceness within ourselves. We're in when we say, we're in the dark, we're in an unknowing state. And then within that knowing state, then of course we identify ourselves with what we can see. And what we can see is, we have a physical form. We see that we have system structures and so forth around us. So we identify with that, and we don't see that we're much more than that, and that the physical form and whatever we're playing on the outside is really just a vehicle and the playground that we're playing in. We just become that playground. We become that physicality, or at least use that as a definition and reference point. Now, what with the 12-12-12 coming into place, we're shifting out of that energy where we're going into neutrality. So now it no longer supports in the same way the darker, denser energies. So in essence, it's like the current is no longer pushing against you. You're now walking through still water. And that still water that we're walking through, now we notice that we don't have the same amount of resistance. And then things start to come into alignment. Now, the alignment that comes into place must be, of course, in alignment for highest order, meaning it has to be good for the whole. It has to be in alignment through the changes that we have desired as a collective to achieve. And that collective doesn't only go with, our immediate family, but it even goes beyond the family, but it goes beyond the planet. It goes beyond to all the beautiful forces and souls and so forth that are on different planets too, because we're all interconnected. So in that alignment, then we tend to find that the movement is a lot easier. So we get into that neutral point, and then we're in a state where we're open. We're not negative or positive, but we're also opening ourselves to stream through us a higher level of consciousness, but it's also what's streaming through us is light realms, which is basically tuning us and making adjustments. So basically it's releasing a lot of the darker energies and so forth that are coming into, that we've carried so forth while we were having our human experience based on whatever we were taking on. So we allow that to come in so that we are able to process it, to purge it and clear it, basically clearing all that up. So that particular time, being tomorrow in this case, is a very excellent time to actually go into a very quiet state and to be in an open, receptive way, and to allow these energies to come through us. And And when it does that, it creates, it creates an opening for us so that it can flow through us in and out. And whatever plays out for us, even if it activates some fears or anything of that nature, sitting in caught up with it, just let it flow, because it's going to flow in and flow out and allow us in that respect. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it that we're stepping into, I mean, of course, everybody's talked about the 21st of December, which is not far from that either, in this case. So we're looking some less 10 days after that. We go to the 21st, and on the 21st, we actually achieve a tipping point. And that tipping point is we achieve a certain frequency and alignment of energies that allow us to shift into a slightly positive. So when we're going back to the analogy of walking through the stream, now we have the water actually moving behind us, pushing us, so urging us to move. So it actually becomes easier to move. Now, the easier part to move is the fact that we're still in flow. We're still walking the direction that we want, which is walking towards a new world of enlightenment, consciousness, and oneness. Then, of course, we're going to feel the energy allowing us to flow a lot easier. It's supporting us going along. If we find ourselves stagnant and where we want to hold on to the 3D world, to hold on to our old world, you're going to find now that the still pushing us, and it becomes harder to stay stable, harder to hold in that position, because that's only the beginning. The positive energy, the water and so forth movement is going to continue pushing harder. Now, part of that shifting process that's going to take place, we're actually completing 2 cycles, and these cycles that we're completing is basically the first cycle we're completing our third cycle of 5,125 years, which is part of the cycles that we have created through this evolutionary process for humanity. And then we have another one that's 29, I can't remember what it is now, 25,900 and something, 20 years or something like that, which is another cycle we're completing. But basically, it all happens in that point. And people talk about the Mayan calendar and so forth coming to a completion. It's kind of not quite accurate. It does predict up to that point, or it has some guidance up to that point, but in actual fact, the calendar has ended last year on the 28th of October 2011. But the stepping into that, so what we're doing is we're completing one cycle and we're stepping into a new cycle. And that new cycle is a much shorter cycle. It is a cycle that supports us into a very rapid enlightenment stage. Because we are here. I mean, we're here to play, of course. We're here to experience through this play, through the playground, through the physicality and so forth. And we're here to learn what we came here to learn. And this learning process is basically really in the experiential aspect of it, and we're here to enlighten. Now, there is a cycle that we go through. We go from source consciousness, full awareness consciousness. We fragment ourselves. We go into a sleep state, or in this case, an unconscious state, a state where you don't see yourself as source, you don't see yourself as creator, and you experience yourself in a physical form. And this is just one of the physical forms that exist on this planet, but there's multitudes of planets, multitudes of different physicalities, and so forth. So the completion that we're doing on the 21st is basically we complete that cycle, we go into the next cycle. We're in a slightly positive frequency that is now conducive to it. We now activate in alignment from the 12th of December all the way to the 21st, where we now integrate oneness consciousness. We also, all the souls that are ready will actually be able to shift into a much higher awareness. It's like an awakening process. Where all of a sudden we can now see things that we couldn't see before. We understand things the way we didn't see it before, or could understand before. We also have a different way of feeling about things, and we now reconnect with our own self, so that we go from a mind state where everything is calculated and measured and scientifically proven and so forth, to a heartfelt experience. So we're basically now connecting much clearer to our soul, which is another facet or a fragment of Source itself, which is the reason why we're in this physical form anyways, that we have a much more profound. It's very profound, because the connection now, we start to see ourselves that we're no longer an isolated island on survival, fear, and all that so forth that we've been programmed. we see ourselves as a commune. We see that every person on the planet is another facet of ourselves. And we establish a really powerful connection with them, feeling that, yes, we're all in this together, we're all part of the whole. But the connection is not only with each person on the planet, it's with every animal on the planet. We're going to have a connection with the planet itself, with every blade of grass, meaning nature itself, the oceanic kingdom, the the insect world. That all starts to integrate, it starts to come into place. Now, for people that are ready and go through that shift, will come to all those realizations, and the realizations will take a period of time to fully reside within ourselves. But then the souls that are times more, in this case, that are not ready, they basically won't notice much of a difference. They'll feel that something's changed. The energy is going to feel different. But they're going to kind of look at it and say, what happened? Nothing really happened. I don't see any broad change. But as we go along, then we will notice much more transformation going on within themselves, feeling more and more uncomfortable. So that's why it's so key for the preparation, and which we started some time ago. I mean, this process has started quite a long time ago, and it actually stepped up through a convergence that we did in 1986, which we cleared a lot of the paths to allow us to prepare us for it. Regardless, I mean, we've had a lot of resistance that with the negative forces and the darker forces that have played on the planet. But again, that only made us stronger and gave us the opportunity to wrap up really the opposite polarity, so that we are getting rid of the polarized part of it. Now, we have already at the soul level, but we're now going to, as we go along, we're going to get rid of it as our experiential realm. Meaning, polarized is I don't need to have one extreme versus the next extreme to allow us to actually navigate and to experience life. It's basically we're open, where we can play, but we're never going to get caught up in any of the extremes. For example, I don't have to have a lot of bad experiences for me to appreciate a good experience, or I'm going to have a lot of good experiences and then always be concerned that what's next. I'm going to have a bad experience. The same way as we're outside and, if it's raining and miserable and so forth, then the moment that stops and we have a sunny day, then it's like, oh, look at how beautiful the day is. But if we're having months and months of sunny days, we lose the whole appreciation of the sunny days. That's when we're playing in the polarized world, where we each other, judge each other, fight against each other and so forth, or need to have extremes and so forth. That part of the game, that modality that we've used will start to shift. So these are things that have been, what I was going to say, the preparation of these changes that are coming through has been prepared for some time, and it's been basically coming through in a way in preparation for us. So on the 21st, of course, what we're having is planetary alignments, and we're going to be aligned with the center sun. These are all kind of combinations that we've set because each planet has certain vibration, magnetic fields, and so forth, which creates a stream of light that actually brings much more consciousness, and not only that, shifts us and shifts the planet itself. So in actual fact, we all step into a fourth dimensional consciousness on the 21st. The 12th is the precursor for it, the preparation for it, to bring us to a neutral state, grounding in that, ready to step into the slightly positive, which now, of course, steps us into the fourth. And then from there, we're only there for a period of 2 years before we step into the fifth. That 2 years is an integrational point for us to allow us to align and to give all the souls that are not prepared or are not ready enough to make a shift to get prepared, or to choose to not participate with stepping forward. So that's kind of there. I think I answered that question a little. I thought I was going to.
Well, yeah, that's a very all-inclusive answer to the question, but there's a lot packed into these next 10 days. And so, wow. I mean, there was times that I had other questions that would kind of highlight certain things that you said. I wonder if we could go back to that. You talked of this counterforce, like you were saying, like the river kind of the stream going against us, pushing against us. And that's basically is that like the patriarchal system that we've had, or what is that energy? I mean, I know there's the Illuminati and the whole thing, but how would you, is it more of a cosmic energy that's basically moving against us, or has been for a long time? Is that correct?
Several levels. I mean, it has been available on a cosmic level, where, because we were playing with polarity, but most of that has faded and changed a long time ago, but that has been maintained on this planet. Now, of course, we've kind of outgrown a lot of this for some time, and we've been ready to make these shifts change. Because if you look at it, I mean, if you look at our human experience right from the beginning of the get-go when it was designed, I mean, this planet was designed for quite uniquely in a way where, we had what we can call a Garden of Eden. Now, we had a playground really that really had a very, not only a sensorial, but a very expansive experience. Because if you look at it, our planet is full of plants, it's full of animals, it's full of different ocean kingdom, so forth, and insects, and also humanity in itself. Because the reason we have so much variety is because when the planet was tuned, and that was tuned some 15,000 years ago, it was tuned for us to really, how can I say, create that quite a bit of variety, but at the same time, we were going to be like the botanical garden. We were going to be the keeper of all these beautiful varieties of species of plant animals and so forth, which are from all different planets, which are brother, sister planet souls. And of course, our bodies were tuned a certain way or these particular bodies were tuned at that point to match that and to be the keeper of the knowledge. And since we're at the center of the galaxy at that point in time, it was going to be like the hub. Now, of course, there was alterations and changes that occurred, and then we had this darker energy, this lower vibrating energy, and this energy that was encoded 5,000 or so years after the fact, after the original design. And we've been on the planet for a while, brought us into this playing with this dark energy, this lower separated consciousness. Mm-hmm. What's been keeping us there is basically the original modifiers that came in to change all of that, have left hybrids, have left people in charge that have been perpetuating that. So yes, you can look at the Illuminatis, you can look at all the different people and souls that are on the planet that are playing a role where it does everything possible to keep us from the truth. But not only from the truth, but it's doing everything possible in a way to allow any progress to move forward. And this is why we're seeing, when we're looking at our world and saying, why is it so difficult for us to shift? Because everything against us, everything is set up. The current is set up that the moment you're waking, you're making an adjustment, you're attacked. You're not only attacked, but you're also judged and so forth. So in actual fact, and you've probably experienced it yourself, as you awaken and you start seeing things differently, people automatically go into that mode, or you're going to have resistance towards it. Being that there's something wrong with you, and that anything that's really that the discovery of truth that you've discovered is basically automatically challenged, that is something crazy. Mm-hmm. In that regards. But if you look at it even deeper, I mean, there's so many things, we can go on and on with it, but there are so many things that are playing out to keep us against. So, we have a medical system, we have an educational system, we have a governmental system, we have a monetary system, we have different media operations and so forth, entertainment, you name it. We also have religious affiliation. We have a lot of different constructs that have been done through different institutions, different corporations, and so forth. And the whole motive in all of that is to create separation, to create that current, to create that opposition for us. So in actual fact, if we want to step out of it, automatically we're in a system that's so hard to step out because the system still dictates a very restricted state of being. So that's what the current we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course, the things that are in place. I mean, we got the chemtrails, we got the additives and so forth in the food, and the different chemicals, drugs, and so forth. The different things that are being put in, the mandating of restricted ways of getting energy, of creating, and then we're creating these illusion that we have to have jobs, working, and this creating stuff that we don't even need, keeping all distracted, keeping us all caught up, or selling us on the idea that we need to be entertained a certain way and that we need to follow certain things and so forth. These are all the resistant currents. And then you have children that are waking up, for example, children that are coming on the planet that are a lot more wiser and much more conscious, and even adults that are coming that way. And automatically what happens? They go through the system, and the system sees that they're not cooperating, they're not moldable to the program, and automatically they're drugged or they're labeled ADD, this and that, whatever they come up with. Of course, they're now being laden with vaccines and all that and so forth. This is all the opposition. This is what we're talking about, the current against us up to this point in time.
Just a few things there. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it really is, that's the matrix, I guess, that some people call it, this whole structure of society that's kind of keeps us in this fear mode, reinforced by the media, reinforced by our neighbors, the medical industry, like you said. I mean, wow, you really put it so brilliantly together. So has been a lot going against us, and it's not always easy to step out and take a stand to be different, right? I think a lot of people are held back by peer pressure, even if they're grown-ups, and feeling they have to do the right thing. So, and yet this time, as you're saying, is going to be changing. We're going to be going in the other direction with the current. So what is it that's actually, so those of us who are more consciously aware and enlightened, we can take a big leap forward at this time with this change of energy, and yet other people will maybe notice they're being awakened, and others will still not even have any knowledge that anything's changed. Or I guess that's what I keep trying to imagine. So what's it going to be like for the regular people, people like my parents, or, that have no idea of this consciousness expansion and this whole 2012 thing, or people who kind of don't believe in this sort of thing? What would they experience?
Well, with the ones that are not, like you said, your parents or others that are not going to acknowledge it. And when we're talking about acknowledging, it's more they're not feeling or seeing any changes within any enough impactful for them to even get on board on that. What they're going to find is they're going to start feeling out of place. They're going to start to see that they're going to, whatever they're trying to hold on to, for example, if they're identifying themselves with, having money, having their home, having a certain way of life, or having things to be there to make them feel secure, safe, feeling worthy, loved, or anything of that nature, that stuff starts to get challenged because it's not going to be there in the same form. So that being the case, they're going to start having more intense experiences because they're holding on to the old world. They're holding on to things that they identified with, and those are being replaced or removed. For example, part of the changes that will occur, we're going to start taking a very close look at the systems that we have in place that we were talking about, that I mentioned earlier, the systems, the monetary and so forth, whatever they are. They're going to start looking at that as we become more conscious of it because of the people that are participating. We're going to start looking and see, okay, what we need and don't need, and we start taking those out of the equation. So that means things are going to start being removed or changed. And if we're holding on and defining ourselves by that, then of course what's going to happen is going to create discomfort, because now what we were holding on to, that we referred ourselves with as our security or a level of understanding, saying this is something I can identify with in some way, then it's going to feel very uncomfortable. The other thing that will occur is that the energies around them will become much more intense. Now, this is happening with everybody, but what happens is the current will allow the souls that are in motion to move freely and much more in huge leaps. Where they're in a position where they're holding on, it's going to be so difficult stay in that place. So the purpose of that is that it's going to get very uncomfortable, very intense, and it may activate certain scenarios. Could be physically, could be emotionally, could be scenarios of loss or whatever it is within their environment, which will create very intense experiences for them, giving them opportunities to make a shift, let go of the old world, or to adapt to this new stuff going on. But if they don't, I mean, it's just going to get difficult. And then their soul, who they truly are, basically in that physicality, may choose at that point saying, we cannot make the shift and we're going to leave. Now, that's already been occurring. This has already started, and there's a lot of people leaving, and there's going to be more, and that will be done in all different forms. But the only reason they choose to leave is because they're not going to be able to make the shift. And the thing is, once we step into this on the 21st, we only have 2 years, given grace in a sense that we've set up for them to get on board or to leave. And the departure may be, well, you know, in any form. Could be natural disasters, can be illnesses, can be other forms of departure. But it's just a matter of leaving for a period of time, going into a non-form to allow an adjustment to occur for them either to reincarnate sometime later until after the shift of the fifth dimensional consciousness that we've stepped in and everything is ingrained. But they'll have to go through light realms to be programmed for it to come back, or they can reincarnate on another planet with third dimensional consciousness. So, yeah, they won't be around. Let's put it this way, if they try to be here. Now, anyone of that nature that tries to hold on to it will either shift or will leave. Mm-hmm. The purpose of that is that we want to upgrade so that if we upgrade the collective, meaning the people on the planet, allowing all the ones that have gotten to a certain level of graduation, I guess, you want to call it that, we can, you know, continue to transform our planet. Because, you know, the planet, our human experience is, first of all, it's not in its natural state. Second of all, it is in a very retarded evolutionary cycle or transformational cycle. So now we've basically, as a collective, and the collective goes into a much further realm than the collective of our planet alone, that has agreed to take, you know, to speed things up in a sense, not that there's any time, but to allow, to mitigate the transformations to occur in a much more sequential change pattern, which, it takes huger leaps. And to do that, we're you know, preparing that to take place by allowing all the souls that are ready to really have that integration occur, for them to perpetuate that higher consciousness, and that way transforming, really updating human experience, bringing it back to its natural state and greater, and also the planet to reflect that. Because, I mean, this is not our natural design, and we're choosing to go back to our natural design. We only temporarily agreed upon to not have our natural experience, and we can go into all of that, but that's going to take a while. But there's just to cover. You say one thing, there's a whole chain of other things that are linked.
Yeah. No, I know. I could easily touch upon, we could go back to the genetic manipulation and the reptilians, and but we have to, I guess it's best to stay focused on the present moment and how, I mean, to me, this is a very exciting time. And I think that anybody that's interested in consciousness and the expansion of consciousness and the shift is excited. It seems like a lot of people who are light workers are very excited, and yet, I mean, there's this whole other tide, and I guess these people are aligned very much with the 3D. I don't know, they're very religious people often who are into the apocalyptic worldview, and you know, it's interesting because people like that, they feel that they're being spiritual, and yet it's very fear-based, and you know, I don't know if you ever have people like that ask you questions, people that really believe in the end of the world and the apocalypse. And I mean, what is your take on that, Franco?
Well, I don't run too many into too many of the people that are still into that mentality. However, again, you know, that mentality, there's several things that are occurred here. That mentality is coming from a fear-based state. It's basically, it's still part of the system. And but that's because it's perpetuated that way. So especially if it's coming from a religious affiliation or it's coming from a different form. I mean, religion was never about, connecting with source or being who you truly are. It was basically creating a separation of a deity and so forth outside of you. Mm-hmm. In essence, those timelines did exist, meaning that we had those type of experiences as a probability or an option for us at that time. But we've gone through a huge changes within as a collective to step outside of those timelines. So in actual fact, when people say something of that nature, and I say, well, that's how we had that probability some time ago. That was a long time ago, but we moved way beyond that. And the fact is that it's not the end of the world, and never was it really ever intended for that, but we had the potentiality to do so, and it was on several levels close to it some years back. But at this point in time, that is not playing out. So, in that case, I say, you can, if you want to choose to believe that, and just go because the fact that you heard it or read it somewhere or something like that, I usually say, well, feel inside. Does it feel like the end to you? Does it really feel that, we're going to have all this horrible stuff going on that, is prophesized in different scriptures and writings and so forth? Because, the end times that is being referred, it's the end of the way that we know the world. Meaning, it's the end of how we've been projecting and experiencing ourselves in a physical form and on a planet. That's really what's changing. Mm-hmm. It's the world. It's not the end of our existence. It's the existence that we got accustomed to, even though it never felt in alignment. But it's the existence that we have accepted and been experiencing this far. Mm-hmm. So, whenever we get into that type of a conversation, I've always get them to feel inside. Does it feel like this is that? And some of them, yeah, they do. You say, oh yeah, there's a second coming and all that stuff. And I go, well, you know what that second coming really is? It's really the consciousness that's coming back. Even if we're talking, the religious that say, there's Jesus is coming back and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jesus was a character that came on the planet. I mean, yes, he was a human that came on the planet. The soul was a unified soul and also fully enlightened too, and came here, to have a human experience and to assist and to activate the consciousness of love. As much as he was here on the planet, the physicality, the role that he played, really the character that projected here to be here really doesn't really matter. It was really the message, the consciousness that he was bringing, which the consciousness at that point in time was love, unconditional love. And so the second coming is a second wave of unconditional love, which will be now the other component, which is with the unconditional love, which is oneness. Because in the consciousness of oneness, when we connect with one, then that consciousness of love, unconditional love, becomes, you understand unconditional love, you see no separation. When you're in oneness, you see nothing but love. So see how they're tied together. So as much as the Christ consciousness and so forth, it came in and brought in love, it also represented oneness. Now, it was more emphasized on love, because that was the key that was needed at that point in time. The oneness thing really was a huge step that humanity wasn't ready because of the state of consciousness. But now this is where my message comes in, which is, meaning the soul. The message of the soul is the oneness consciousness that's coming onto the planet, which is totally tied into love. So in a oneness and love state of being, then there is a whole different way of experiencing life altogether. That means when we are playing with that, you can take a look at it and say, okay, I have oneness and I have love merged together. And now let me use that as my reference point to look at how I experience the world, how I experience myself in my own physicality. And you'll notice how easily it becomes to see things and to modify our experience to align with oneness and love, because that's becomes the prevalent state of being within ourselves.
Yeah, I can definitely sense that it seems that the more we become aware of our divine nature and our consciousness expands, then we're able to see things from a broader perspective. Yeah, I have each time you talk, I have more questions, but I'll have to save those for another time. Because as much as I want to go into, your essence, and it's interesting that you mentioned that Jesus was a unified soul. So, so that makes me think, just to touch upon this a little bit, do people ever kind of put you in that position of being like a Jesus type or a savior?
Not normally. Just put it this way: when Jesus came on the planet, for example, whatever he called himself at that point, he came here to, he came here to bring the message of love. He never came here to save anyone or anything, and he's always said that. I'm just here to remind you to activate within yourself, basically, your own internal knowing, and that is that we are love. And that we love one another, and in doing so. Because at that point in time, you have to understand that the state of consciousness that humanity was in, because of the modification too that had occurred way before that, some 8,000 years before that, humanity basically didn't really know what love was altogether. It was basically self-surviving, instinctual energies of fear and so forth, that even when they had children, when they had a significant other, you want to call it, it was always property-based. In a sense, it was ownership. So people would have kids, and it was for their self-support, for their proof that they were, what do you call it there? That they were fertile and so forth, and then there were their riches too, because the kids were, would help them with their farms or whatever it was. So it was commodity. Children were a commodity, and a spouse of any sort was also a commodity. It was a convenience because they needed to. But that profound love, that conditional love, where that was that connection, was almost non-existent at that point in time. So when he did come on the planet, that's what he came to do. Now, as for myself, I came here doing exactly the same that Jesus did in that particular case, where it's a fully unified, enlightened soul, and my message is basically oneness. Okay, so the encodements that I do, all the encodements, because that's what the other thing Jesus did was we encoded the operating system to carry and activate those modalities within themselves, the energies and frequencies that resonate those energies. Anyways, so no, so I don't identify with any of that per se, and I usually tell everybody all the time, I just came here to assist. We do this. We're all one. We're all the same. There is no higher or lower. We're just at different grades of awareness, but everybody gets to the same place. There is no, specialness or anything of that nature. As much as I'm here and carrying a certain level of consciousness, you're all facets of myself, and I'm a facet of you. So there's no So in that regard. And then Franco itself, it's just a vehicle with a computer. It's really the soul that's really that did the process. The vehicle, what I identify as Franco, it's just a name I use. The vehicle is a vehicle. Of course, I've had my human experience through it, and it's the only way I can relate and connect with humanity on the planet at this point. There's no saviors ever. Right now, we have a lot of beings that are on the planet. We have them coming and going. These are beings from other planets, which are other facets of ourselves, which are on different playgrounds, that have come here, that have achieved certain challenges that we are facing ourselves. They're sometimes more technically advanced, so they have some technology that they can share, some wisdom they can share. But again, whatever they're sharing is based on their journey, which is again different than ours. However, we can utilize what they share. It's not that they come here to save us. They came here to make sure that we follow through with the changes that we're going through, that we don't run into some more big pit holes or something like that to get caught up in it. So they're contributing because they're our brother sister souls too. I mean, you have to understand, at the soul level, we're all exactly the same. Physicalities are just vehicles. So if you're on a different planet, you're basically in a different physicality. But any being that is in a physical form is still on an evolutionary cycle. That means you go from complete unconsciousness to complete consciousness, or in this case, being completely unenlightened to a full enlightenment. They're just different playgrounds of different physicalities, and there's many people on the planet that they change. They go back and forth, meaning that they have some lives on this planet, they have some lives on a different planet. There are souls on the planet right now that are from another planet altogether, never been here, which we can call star seeds, and we have others that are indigos, and we have crystalline, we have all, some have been here before and then have been tuned somewhere else. But this is all to facilitate, but nobody's saving anyone. It's just basically everybody's bringing their spectrum of consciousness, light, and so forth to allow this transformation to take form. But it's not going to be a linear transformation. It's going to be a completely broad, full spectrum transformation that we're going through.
What do you mean about that in terms of the full spectrum transformation? You mean like everything is going to change with the shift? Like, I don't know. Can you say more about that?
Oh, full spectrum meaning that we're not going to just follow one linear path, meaning one path of evolutionary consciousness awareness. In actual fact, it's like, for example, you go to school and you learn how to be a doctor, for example. Okay, just as an example. So now you've done one stream of learning, a doctor. But you're also bound by what you learned as a doctor. You really don't have the expertise in anything else. That's a possibility that we have, in a sense, where we come in and say, okay, we're going to be a specialized human, and we're going to do everything that a human is initially designed to be. For example, saying, as a human, this is our protocol, this is how we operate, and this is the realm of spectrum that we operate within. So that means we can only do which matches that spectrum. Or you can come in full spectrum and say, okay, I'm in a human form, but I'm not going to isolate it or allocate it in a form that I'm just going to be a specialized human. For example, back to the doctor thing. Instead of going to school and say, I'm going to specialize in only being the doctor, I'm going to go to a school and I'm going to learn how to be a doctor, mechanic, and this and that and whatever it is. And I'm going to be, dabbling in all of it and able to embrace all of it so I can move around and experience various things at different times. So for a couple of years or a year, a month, whatever it is, I wanted to be the doctor, I'd be that. And then if I want to be the car mechanic, for example, I'm just giving you a very crude example here, I want to be a car mechanic, I can go out and fix cars instead of fixing human bodies and so forth. So you're adaptable, you can move around. But the variety we're talking about is a variety where we're no longer species limited to just having the human experience. We're going to be in a human body, but we're going to embrace the consciousness, embrace the levels of experiences that we have within ourselves in our range, and that's usually aligns with our DNA, is from different realms, meaning that what we've experienced on, or what we can experience on different planets, will be brought in as a variety. So this becomes a very, it's like going to an amusement park, and then the amusement park only has one roller coaster, for example. And then if you want to experience, you just go on that one roller coaster. But if you go what we want to create is a playground where we have a multitude of different rides. We have a multitude of different opportunities. So we could say, right now I'm going to go with the roller coaster. Later I'm going to go with the bumper cars. And then I'm going to go on the Ferris wheel or whatever it is. So you can experience a variety of things. So that's what I'm talking about, a much more spectrum. But the other spectrum part of it is the fact that we will be able to operate with a higher dimensional consciousness here. So that we're not any longer restricted to only fourth and fifth. We can actually have 6, 7, and 8 if we choose to, because the energy of the planet will not create the same level of restriction in the consciousness and everything else that's being shared. Plus, the other bonus that comes into play is that our original design was to be a portal here, or what we can call a port, in a sense where we're international and I say galactic in a way, where we allow the flowing in and out of beings from other planets with ships and so forth, so that we can travel to their planets, then they can come to our planets, and we can exchange. But it's an open platform. We're not, afraid of them. We're not going to be resisting their existence. It's going to be very communal. So it's like going into a country in which in a lot of North America and most of the world is now adopting to it, that we don't become culturally or race specific. There's so many different races that are involved. Like here in Canada, it's very international. We have people from all over the world here, and they set up their homes here and they interact with one another and so forth. It's just going to go to another level where we allow beings from other planets to cohabitate with us. They come in, they visit, we visit them, we can go there without us, being incarnating here in this physical form as a human. And then if we want to go experience to become a Pleiadian, a Sirian, a Turian, or anything of that nature, even a reptilian, that in that case, we're not here and say, oh, okay, I got to do my life here as a human, and whatever those limits are, and then later on I'm just going to step out and then I'll go and reincarnate somewhere else. In this case, you can be in a human form and go experience those other places. These are all things that will open up for us when we're talking about much broader spectrum of experience.
That sounds really fantastic. And so that's basically once we're in the fifth dimension, or would that also be in the fourth dimension as well?
We'll get tastes of it in the fourth. It won't be right at the beginning. We have a year, basically 2013, where there's still going to be some pretty hefty integration. There's going to be some intense situations to really accentuate the purging and clearing for humanity to align. So there's going to be just basic introductions of beings coming in and out. But again, it's all based on the state that we're in. Mm-hmm. If you notice, the control structures, the higher elites that are in control, know that this is going to take place, and realizes that on December 21st, the hands-off policy is complete, meaning that there was an agreement made where we were not open to have beings showing up in shiploads here, or to become very intermingled and show up as beings from other planets until after the 21st, because humanity was not ready for that. So there was a hand-off policy, meaning we cannot influence them too much, we cannot start having mass landings, and we cannot, present ourselves in that point, because that agreement was there to give us the opportunity to prepare for them to come, because the preparation was really expanding our consciousness and to be open. But knowing that the elite, the control structures, the media, and so forth, if you've noticed, I don't know if you do watch any television or any movies whatsoever. I mean, I'm not a watcher of any sort, but I do, on the internet, see stuff coming up. Not that I watch it, but you'll notice that there's so many more movies that involve aliens coming onto our planet, and humanity has to fight to survive and to destroy. The purpose of that is to create and perpetuate more fear. So because this is going to take place, in actual fact, they're counterbalancing it by keeping the fear level of it, because now they're the aliens. They're going to come here and destroy us, and so forth. And we need to come together and fight them, and so forth. So if you notice, the last 2 or 3 years now, specifically lately, I mean, every form of of alien movie is being, or world destruction and all that stuff. But again, it's just to perpetuate the fear, to create that restriction. So the beings that are coming to the planet will know when we've actually outgrown or stepped out of that state, so that we don't activate, that part within ourselves. They're just other facets of ourselves. They're coming here to share with great love. because we're interconnected with them, and that we belong to their brother, sister, soul families, that they would love to see us move forward because it benefits them too, because we're all linked together. So we can't do this separately. Mm-hmm. So that's the case in this experience. It will depend on how quickly we dissipate that fear capacity, at least at a little larger. And then they'll be popping in and out at first, and then later on, yes, it won't be until after 2017, basically, that we'll have much more interaction, because that will give us the two tiers to go through, because we're going to step into 2014, we'll step into 2015, we're going to step into a fourth dimensional consciousness on the 21st of December, 2012, mm-hmm. and then stepping into a fifth in the beginning of 2015, and but we still have 2 years after that to integrate and also allow the fourth dimensional consciousness to either get on board on the fifth or to step out. Meaning, so by the time we step into 2017, the planet is fully in an integrated fifth dimensional consciousness. The only humans on the planet or beings on the planet at least reflect fifth dimensional consciousness. There might be some that are sixth, but in the majority will be fifth. There won't be any fourths. There won't be any thirds. So at that point, the energetic alignment is much more powerful for that to be, and it'll create a much larger transformation. So yes, you'll see a lot more transformation happening on the planet itself. So we will be taking down a lot of the things that no longer serve at a much more rapid, and anything that's put into place will be holistic, meaning it serves the whole, and it does not create unnecessary challenges and so forth, meaning that we will have all the resources we need in the most clearest harmonic or harmonious state possible. We will not create anything that is not of absolute servitude, and we will not create anything that creates any complexity whatsoever. So that we actually can spend our time experiencing, learning, and playing without being, going out to get jobs, doing things that are absolutely not necessary, to get caught up in all the drama and all that stuff that we were playing before, or sacrifice or anything like that. None of that will exist. At that point, we're going to be much more open. We'll have more self-discovery, and we'll be even more receptive for being to interconnect with us and to interact with us, basically.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So that basically is, for so many of us, that it just makes me so happy to hear that. Even if I have an idea on a sort of an intellectual level in that I've learned a lot, I have a sense of what it is, but to hear you say that, it just kind of puts it into a greater perspective, and I'm just really excited about that, because I feel like the whole system, and that's one of the things I remember hearing you say in the past was, I really aligned with that nobody really wants to go out and work a job. And here they are creating more jobs. They want to create more jobs in the economy, and they're kind of getting people caught up in the whole matrix of life, and that makes people watch more TV and want to use more drugs and alcohol. And I mean, the whole system is just so, it's creates a lot of dis-ease. So it's kind of, it's interesting the way you put it, because it feels like, I'm sure to many people, like a fantasy, what you're saying. This concept of like an Eden type of living, once again, where we don't have to kind of take each other down in order to get ahead in life, where we can work together in a co-creative, expansive vision where love is the main driving force. And to hear that that's going to happen within the next 5 years is just really heartwarming and incredible. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's it sounds like that's what the world will be like.
Yes. And the thing is, it will depend on us, on how quickly we integrate into it. And now, as much as it may sound as a fantasy, all of us inside of us really resonate with it and already know it exists, because it's already existing within us. We've always desired that, and it's always been there. It's like we live it, but we're not experiencing it in a physical form at this point in time. see, for myself, on my perspective, when I look at it, when I'm looking at that feels completely in alignment. It is actually, that's the world I live in my perceptional being. What I see on the outside world now is an actual opposite to that. So to me, it seems like I'm in a nightmare, if you want to call it, in a dream that looks like it's, well, when is it going to turn off? Because I like to the other, because the other is the reality. This is the illusion. And the reality is that other world that, you've just mentioned, that seems like a fantasy, or, seems like a dream in a sense, because it's not. But in actual fact, it's the other way around. So to me, at the world, the way it is right now, it's saying, I look at it and I say, wow, what an elaborate illusion that we've created as a reality. And how can we not see it yet? But we are starting to wake up to that. So, even with the thing about the you had mentioned the matrix a couple of times, we do have a matrix in place, and that's the matrix that is actually going to shift, because this is part of the other part of the process. Each planet has a matrix, okay? And our planet Earth has a matrix too. Now, the original matrix was a self-expanding matrix, meaning that each of the matrices are interconnected with the matrices of other planets. So it's like a huge server, for example. Well, let's not even call that. Let's call it that every server is connected to another server, and that we are all computers hooked up to our server. So our server is basically the matrix of our planet, and then each one of us are linked to that, and we share from that an operating system. And then the operating system of our planet matrix is connected to other planet matrix, and then there's an exchange of consciousness, exchange of energies and so forth, and awareness and knowledge between, so that the actual fact is the matrix is self-evolving, and as the matrix evolves, we evolve too. Now, part of the modification that occurred, there was a superimposed matrix that was put into place. And the superimposed matrix got in between our original matrix and our collective consciousness. So in a sense, that this separated us from the original matrix. Now, this matrix that was superimposed, the matrix is back. It's reversed. Meaning anything that is truthful is projected as a lie, and anything that is not true, that is creating some form of an illusion, is made to feel and seem real. So in actual fact, that's why we see everything works in reverse. Instead of having abundance and seeing that we are all here to share and there's enough of everything for everyone and that we have a life of ease, it's actually the other way around. There's not enough. We got to support, we got to fight, we got to compete, we got to be the fittest, whatever it is. We look at law, or we look at anything, for example, even the medical system, say, well, here's a medical system that is supposed to be supporting brilliant, exuberant health and allowing us to support that. And meanwhile, it's designed to do what? To destroy health. You take education, instead of allowing us to expand and flourish and become a grander aspect, it takes all the natural, the beauty, the expansiveness, and it compresses it into a form of what we call a program, or in this case, cutting a cookie cutter type mentality. So everybody's in this. So there's no capability to even use your natural state of creativity. So if you keep looking at each level, religion is supposed to be connecting us to our own divinity, our own sourceness, our own essence, to have a higher understanding to connect them. But in reverse, it actually makes you separate from that. Mm-hmm. So projected an illusionary world, which is basically, fear-driven, survival-driven, wanting power, control, self-compromise, destruction, and so forth. And that's that matrix that is going to be also dissolving as the two merge, and it dissolves that, so that the superimposed one will actually no longer exist, and then we'll reconnect with our natural what we call a natural matrix, which the matrix really helps us project a consistency for us to relate with so that we all see the same thing and experience the same thing, but all of it is interpreted by our own personal experience and growth. So in actual fact, we can see the same tree, but everyone looking at it will have a different experience or connection or intimacy with that tree, per se. But we all see a tree, and we just have different ways of seeing it. So that's what the matrix does. But the original matrix we've been disconnected with. Now, once we reconnect to the original matrix, and the superimposed matrix totally links, and now that's going to take another year or so before it actually all finishes, then what we're going to see is that the matrix that originally was designed, because it was linked, I use the analogy of this way. It's like having the international, what would you call it, the World Wide Web, okay? You have the World Wide Web, and everybody on the planet is utilizing and sharing on the World Wide Web. So it gives us the opportunity to access higher consciousness knowledge, discoveries, and so forth, but there's no boundaries. We're able to tap into all parts of the world and what people are sharing. Of course, not all of it is accurate, but at the same time, there's at least, it's there. But when the superimposed matrix was done, it's like this. We created a localized matrix that's stagnant, meaning all of a sudden we have a website, or what do you call it, a web system in place, which, like China is doing too, in a sense, where you on your computer can't access the World Wide Web because you've been cut off. Now you have to go to a series of other servers, and these servers keep you localized, meaning that you cannot look outside of your country, for example, or even your state. And then the information that is allowed is only allowed based on a certain parameter, meaning does it meet a certain agenda that's been there. So the superimposed matrix, even though it carried a certain specific agenda, limited us to any form of consciousness that went beyond what it was stipulated to allow us to access. That being the case, then of course we, and then of course the stipulation and the way it was designed was everything was in reverse. So in actual fact, once we get back onto that, we'll notice all of a sudden we're relinked to the World Wide Web that has not only a higher consciousness, but has much more information, and the information is no longer skewed or constructed based on some confines or anything of that nature. So all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we can experience life differently. We don't have all these restrictions. We don't have all these, we have all different levels of truths and so forth coming into place. So it's kind of that's what we're talking about. I just wanted to expand a little bit on that matrix, because the matrix has a purpose for it, but the one that is superimposed, it has, as much as it has served, it is also created this reality that we've been playing, which we've outgrown, and this is it. I wanted to share one thing too. No matter the Illuminatis or whoever's playing whatever role is being played at this time, you have to understand they're not the evil ones. They're not to be condemned. They're not to be the ones that, are the devastators or anything like that. They're only playing a role. They're playing a polarized role. We've agreed to play with that polarized role, but that polarized role, it was something to give us a certain level of experience until we were done with it. So in actual fact, we don't hate the control system. We see that we outgrown the control system. We see the limitation, and we now choose to change it. Because if we're going in to resent and fight or judge the system, we're using the same energy that keeps it in place. The point is to see the beauty of the experience that we had, even though it was polarized and even though it was of a dark nature, that look at the light, the experience we're going to have once we fully step out of it. Imagine you being in jail for thousands of years, or let's take it in a human form, being in jail for 50 years, really never getting to go outside, and then all of a sudden you're left free. You're released, and you're now able to play on the planet completely freely, and you now see that your world is not behind some walls and bars. You now actually have access to go anywhere and everywhere. You're going to have such a powerful appreciation and you're going to internalize everything you see. So every moment now becomes magnificently special for you, so that you now achieve a freedom that was not achievable until you had that confinement. So the point is, with this transformation that we're going through, this freedom that we're going into, and we can get into this conversation another time, but this stepping into will allow us to even a higher appreciation and really experience that human experience and planet in a whole different form, because of the fact that we've, been restricted for so long. As much as it was painful, if we had to call it that, not that there is such a thing. I mean, that's just a perceptual aspect. Mm-hmm. The fact that we've had those restrictions in place and had those challenges, the new world will be created in such magnificence, and our experience will become such magnificence that we will be so, let's call it, grateful for the roles that they've played. Let's call it that.
Mm-hmm. I can believe that. I understand. And also there's like an agreement that we had to have this polarity in place so that we could learn something from it and transmute it, I suppose. I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I wanted to ask you about this increase in consciousness that is happening for everyone. And I feel like that it seems that when your consciousness expands, then in some senses we're able to choose an alternate timeline. So, is that something that's occurring both individually and collectively for us at this time with this expanded consciousness?
That's normally how it works. I mean, for example, we all have a multitude of timelines, and these timelines all have series of different experiences. Mm. In the past, any time that we made a shift within ourselves, we would shift timelines, so that our series of experiences and unfoldments would be slightly different. And of course, it would match our frequency, or in this case, match our state of consciousness. Mm. Now, as we become more aware, we were able to access more timelines and be able to continue to shift. Now, each timeline matches a higher state of consciousness and a higher vibration that will give us more, a much more closer experience of being fully in charge of our, even though we always are, but we're much more consciously aware of the choices. Now, what's happening, which is the beauty of all of this, is the fact that we're actually even dissolving the timelines in a sense where we are going into a fluid state where we create on two levels. We create personally without any stagnant timelines, even though before we had multitudes of timelines. Each of the timelines were prior designed in a sense to match something. But because of the new state, now this won't happen right away, but it's fairly soon after this, that we basically go into a very fluid flow of creation, meaning that it is, how can I say it? You imagine it and it exists, in a sense, if you had to call it that. So you're not stagnant in any way. So you're not in a rigid timeline any longer, even though we are shifting. So that's the first level. And then the collective, being everybody's state, will also reflect another fluid creation. So the planet becomes a very fluid creation, and ourselves and our own experiences. Mm-hmm. So in the first stage, yes, we start realizing that we have other timelines and we have other options of ways of experiencing our world, experiencing our life journey. And then from that, it actually dissolves completely, and you're just in a fluid state of energy, of instant creation, basically.
Like instant manifestation, when you say instant creation?
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. And the manifestation, again, will be, of course, will take a different form. See, the way we manifest now, and even though we're always manifesting, we're always creating, it is a much slower process. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that, because we're not in a focused state. We're still very emotional driven. For example, if we, even in your own personal example, just as your own reflection or anybody else that's listening to this, if you were creating everything instantaneously at this point in time, there was no time lag and also a certain level of time. When I say time, a certain amount of energy to be maintained at a certain period for something to manifest. For example, every time that we had an emotional reaction, we created something that matched it. Can you see how that would be interesting of an experience for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You getting upset with your daughter to the point you feel like not maybe so much harm, but, some type of energy would be creating of total resentment or something of some action she took. And you had a spontaneous thought of incarcerating her or okay. So, there it was. She now just had that experience.
Oh.
It would be something that we would be prepared to experience. Because remember, we're easily triggered one way or another. So once we get to a state of consciousness, a state of awareness, a state of enlightenment, we are very more conducive, and we're not driven by emotions, we're not driven by just programmed thought patterns. Then, of course, we can create more instantaneously, because then we will not be dangerous to ourselves. I'll use that loosely because, it's just an experience, but.
No, it could be scary. I could certainly think of times when I've had negative thoughts about people. And if that would manifest right away, that would definitely be a scary thought. So, I guess that's really the importance of this time of this great purging that's occurring, that people can let go of all the programming and that intense connection to emotions, like emotions being the driving force of one's life. This is what we have to let go of in order to be able to be in the fifth dimension. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. We can get into this a little more elaborate another time, but the thing is, the purging process, like you said, it's programs, response mechanisms, and so forth. So basically what we're purging is our beliefs, our perceptions. We're purging any modalities, consciousness, awareness that we've taken on through conditioning, programming, our automatic response, and also releasing emotional charges and reactions and so forth. So in actual fact, if we want to create a new world, we need to let go of the old. And to let go of the old, meaning letting go of all perception, belief systems, and so forth that keep reflecting this old world. For example, if we believe that we all have to work and that we all have to have a job and we all have to struggle to make money, then that's what we're going to continue perpetuating, and that's what's occurring still. Because that is drilled in and through us over and over again. This is what we need to do. So all we do is now create a world where we all have to try to produce something to keep that system going. But how do you create a new world of freedom if we continue believing that? We need to let go of that belief and letting go of all the stories about that. The other part we need to let go is all the belief systems about ourselves. See, we truly don't understand, and I'll say this very lightly at this point, we truly don't understand the human experience. We don't really understand our world. We don't understand why we're even here and what we're doing here yet fully. I'm not saying everybody, but in as a majority, we don't understand our operating system and how we actually can change that. So the purging clearing is letting go of all our judgment stories and so forth that we've taken on. Because, for example, if you had an experience in your lifetime where you had an interaction with dad or mom or whatever role that particular role take, and we adopted the idea that, I'm not good enough, I'll never amount to anything, or the fact that I'm always a loser, or this and that, and you hold on to that, you're going to notice that your world is going to continue reflecting that, and every opportunity that comes along, you're going to sabotage it or create an adjustment within yourself so that it matches that belief system we've taken on. Now, how do we change that if we're still holding on to that? We're not going to go in and create a new story. We're going to have to let go of that story altogether, So the thing is, if I don't feel good enough, I'm not going to create a story that I'm good enough and I'm, capable enough and all that stuff. You're going to go in and let go of all of that so that you don't even need that other side of the polarity. For example, if I'm not self-confident, for example, there's a lot of people that teach, we have issues with self-confidence. The thing is, we may have self-confidence issues, but the self-confidence issues is based on some story. The point is to get rid of the story, get rid of the whole need of self-confidence. Because the thing is, you can turn around and say, well, I'm not confident, I'm shy, I'm this and that, I can't really do this. You can go in and say, well, I'm confident, I'm this and this and that. But the moment something reflects something different, of course, you're going to go back to the other side and say, well, I'm not confident or anything of that nature. But then that's a mind game and say, okay, do I need to play with self-confidence? What the heck is self-confidence? It's made up anyway. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it completely so that it doesn't even become a reference point at this point. So it's not about rescripting a belief system. We get rid of all belief systems. If we get rid of all belief systems, then we're in the moment, and in the moment we are using every bit of our awareness, consciousness, or whatever we are experiencing to create new experiences without beliefs. Because the thing is, a belief is something that we've adopted within ourselves. There's a knowing that's different. That's an internal knowing that resonates, and it is fully empowering within yourself, because that is something that's totally in alignment with your truth, your absolute. But in fact, when we're talking about belief, we're just buying into a concept and so forth. So believing that we're prosperous or that we have money issues or anything of that nature, or even if we have to look at it that way, again, is that, well, you can turn around and say, well, I'm going to gain a millionaire mindset. And what the heck is that? What's the millionaire mindset? Oh, the way they think. Well, why do you even need to think about having or not having money, or the fact that, because, again, that's another polarity. It never feels holistic to you, but so you get rid of the whole idea. You get rid of the whole idea that I'm prosperous, not prosperous, or anything like that. I am ultimate being here, and I choose to create and experience anything I choose, completely, not having one polarity over another or one story over another. So it's a matter of letting go of all of that stuff. So that's what the purging and clearing is, letting go of all our beliefs based on culture, based on genetic upbringing, letting go of all our cultural stories and everything.
So I'm sorry, we seem to have cut out at the end there, but I know that we're coming close to the end of our interview here. So I just thought maybe we could end it with, if you have any closing words that you'd like to leave our listeners with for today, Franco.
Yes, I can. And what I would like to share is the fact that all that's playing out right now with the 12-12-12, the 21st, and everything beyond this is really what we allow ourselves to go through in a very peaceful, open way. For example, we're looking at it and not to see it as something fearful, specifically because we're going into something totally different, and we have a lot of perceptions and belief systems and things that we've been hearing being talked about. But really, the purpose of all of this is really to align and to create an experience that we've been wanting for so long, and we've been ready for so long at the soul level to really embrace. So it's a matter of going into a very peaceful, open state and allow these beautiful energies coming through to do the job that it came to do, the transformation within ourselves. I mean, it is something to embrace with love and peace, because that's what it's all about. And not to be based on fear, because it's not going to serve. It's going to only create more tension and uncomfortableness for ourselves, when it's not necessary at all. We are going into a new world. It is a world that is aligned more with our true nature. It is a world that will give us the opportunity to really experience ourselves fully. It is a world that has fully ingrained with peace, and it is fully ingrained in the oneness of being truly 100% who we truly are each moment. Therefore, it's really a huge opening that's taking form, and it's a time of, you can call it a time of celebration, but it's a time of embracement. It's a time of really being part of it, because it is magnificent, and it's taken thousands and thousands of years to get to this point where we are ready for this. And it's like this. It's like a trip that we've been waiting for so long to come about. And, we've been planning it and imagining what it's going to be like when we get there and all of that stuff. And all of a sudden now it's time to get to the airport or time to get to wherever we're going to do to step into this so that we can get to the place we want to go and really, for the first time, really enjoy the experience in a different form than the form that we've been experiencing it up at this point in time. So, and anything that comes up, intense stuff, emotions, interactions, because there's going to be a lot of things, and we can play with this another time too, with some of the changes, what will occur with our family members and so forth. There's going to be challenges and so forth that may show up on a perceptual level, but those are there to assist us. It's there to really allow these changes to come through. So everything is in order, in a sense where it's all perfect. And we all signed up to be here. We're all open for this to take form. And it's not for us that we made a mistake, we're in the wrong place, or anything of that nature. It is all in perfection at this point in time. So at this point, it's just be at peace. Let whatever is flowing through us to align us with the new world that we're stepping into, and then really just experience it fully in a very peaceful, fluid state.
That is really beautiful, Franco. And I can, just listening to you talk about it, I can feel more calm and peaceful. And, I really believe that is what we're moving to. And thank you so much for coming on the radio with us today on Whole Earth Healing Radio. And but let's give people your website. And I know you work with so you work with Collective Evolution, and then you also work with Masterpiece Life. And then your website is francodenicola.com.
Yes, that's right. It's all one word, francodenicola.com. And, of course, we have Collective Evolution, which is collective, dash or hyphen, so it's collective-evolution.com. And then we have, the other one is Masterpiece, all one word, life, all one word. So it's masterpiecelife.com.
Mm-hmm. And you have links to a lot of your audio recordings on your website and these other sites as well?
Yes, there's all different information and links on all the websites. If you go to Masterpiece Life, there's quite a few different free, freely accessible talks and processes and so forth. We also have stuff on Collective Evolution, and I also have ones on my website also. Now, if you go to my website, the links, if you go right at the top tab, you'll see links directly to Collective Evolution. You have direct connections to Masterpiece Life. And so from there, as long as you get to my website, you can go from there to any direction at this point. We're upgrading the website to have more content based, because it's been kind of limited, the content-wise. I've put out a lot of information. I've put out a lot of different processes and so forth. As you've seen, some of the things I've sent you, but I don't have everything on the website, so we're hoping to do more of that on the website. But there is part of that is also available on Masterpiece Life too, because they're posted on her website for Masterpiece Life. And I know Collective Evolution has the others. I'd like to have it all in one place, which will come about in the near future. I just have to get some people to work on it for me.
Well, you certainly have a wide array of materials to share, and just to let people know. You were so approachable when I found you. I friended you through Facebook, and I really appreciated how open you were with me, and you just gave me so many links to your works that it's. I've been immersing myself in your material for the last month here, and it's just really fascinating. And I just want to thank you so much for all the great work you're doing here on Earth, and I'm so grateful on behalf of so many people. I'm so grateful you're here now, and just thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. I mean, this is my my only purpose on the planet here is to assist as many souls as possible for this beautiful transformation that we're going through. And if it wasn't for doing what I'm doing, I wouldn't be here. I mean, to be coming back from where I'm coming from in a total being state, to lower your vibration and frequency while you're still conscious, and to come here, it's not very comfortable. That's why most beings never do come here. But I don't. My purpose in life is just to assist. I have no other direct purpose or even desire to experience life in any way, because besides the fact that I took on as much as possible to learn from it so that I can relate with humanity, I don't live for me, because really me doesn't mean anything to me in that regard. It's really for this beautiful shift. And to me, my greatest pleasure is seeing the transformation with all the beautiful souls on the planet. And as everybody transforms, since we're all linked together, it benefits everyone. So, hey, I'm fully open for that.
Well, I definitely wholeheartedly recommend you to anyone and everyone that I know, and all my listeners, to get more into your work. And thanks again for everything that you do, Franco. And I would love to have you back on the show or talk about more things in the future, because you have so much to offer.
Yeah, we can base it on certain subjects and so forth, and we can do that. We can get back together again in the new year. I'm not available till the new year at this point for any particular shows now, but
I understand you're very busy. You have a lot of work going on in this next month, so gosh, many blessings to you. And thanks again, Franco, for coming on Whole Earth Healing Radio today. And this is Claudia Miller, aka CJ Miller. You can find out more about me on my website, wholeearthhealing.com. And so I want to thank all of our listeners for being part of this expansive discussion today with Franco DeNicola. May we all continually be lifted up and reminded of our divine nature, so that we may embody our own power within the collective consciousness. We're all co-creating this new earth together, and as we expand in consciousness, may we all be blessed and supported during this great time of the shift. So much love and light to you all. Namaste.
Much love and light to all.